When do guitars become art? Fucked if I know, but this thing is 100% the latter of the two. Good afternoon, slash evening, slash morning, and welcome back to the channel. It's a beautiful sunny day in the United Kingdom at the moment. I'm sat in my office absolutely boiling, and I must say it's the best feeling I've had in months. Months of rain, cold, COVID lockdown, and endless reams of bad news stories courtesy of social media and the news. There is a sense of cautious optimism in the air, I think, at the moment. Long may it continue. Anyway, today on the channel, it is my extreme pleasure to present to you a full review of the Legator N6X, this particular one in amethyst finish. Full disclosure before we continue, I have not been compensated in any way for this review. I have not even been asked to do it. I've purchased this guitar with my own money, and what you're going to get is my 100% honest feelings and thoughts about it. Every single video on this channel is done on that basis, unless I specifically say otherwise. So let's take a look at this absolute stunner. First of all, we have a neck through design with a 5-piece neck. Body of the guitar is swamp ash with a California Buckeye burl top, which is absolutely stunning. And on every single one of the guitars in this finish, the top is completely individual. It completely varies between models. Some people may be put off by this and a lack of consistency from one guitar to the next, but I myself love it. Anything that brings some sense of individuality and your own stamp on an instrument is, a brilliant thing in my opinion. As with all X models on the current Legator range, we have a pair of Fishman Fluence modern humbuckers. No messing around, a single pot. I love this. I personally have never once used a tone pot in my entire life to shape my tone. Are there any metal or hard rock players out there watching the channel that do this? Please comment below. I have never met one, okay? So any type of extreme high gain sound, any guitar that comes to me that has a single pot, I'm instantly in. You've won me. You've got me 50% of the way there to liking your instrument. Continuing on with the appointments that generally come with any of the X series models from Legator, we have a hip shot flat mount bridge, which is extremely comfortable, very, very non-intrusive under the hand. 3-way blade switch. I always prefer a blade switch to a toggle switch. I generally find they feel nicer to use and they last a hell of a lot longer. I have never had to replace a blade switch on any guitar I have owned, whereas I've had to replace maybe 3 or 4 toggle switches that have just died on me. We have a extremely neatly set graphite nut that does not protrude at all. There's no glue residue. It's a very nicely done job. We have loom inlay dot markers on the side of the neck. They're not the biggest loom inlays I've ever seen, but they suit the guitar well. They're kind of subtle and they certainly glow extremely bright once you charge them up. Legator locking machine heads. They feel very nice to use. I'm not entirely sure what ratio these locking machine heads are engineered at, but I do find that it takes a high number of turns to make an adjustment to the tuning. I personally think this setup is excellent because I prefer to have more control and more precision over tuning adjustments rather than less. I don't know what you guys prefer. I think it's something that will probably come down to personal taste. There are some very special things about the appointments on this guitar, so let's get into them. First of all, we have a color-coded Tessie LED kill switch that is one of those things that is completely unnecessary, but something that is just so damn cool. So as you can see, it's purple. It's color-coded to the guitar. And all of the X series Legators, they come with a Tessie LED kill switch that is whatever color matching to the instrument you've bought. And not only does it work fantastically well, it's actually one of the best kill switches I've ever used. I've used certain Ibanez models with a toggle switch and things like that, and I mean that's fine. But this thing is just extremely tactile under the fingers. Hang on. But it just looks the business. It's like I said, it's something that is an artistic flourish. It doesn't need to be there. It wouldn't be any less of a guitar without it. But it just adds this cool factor to the guitar. It just adds this kind of like You know, like when you climb into an Italian sports car and it says designed by Pininfarina or something like that, you know, that doesn't need to be there. It's just an artistic streak on the guitar. Love it, great addition. Also something about this guitar that I must admit I didn't become aware of until I'd owned it for like 4 or 5 weeks. And I don't even fully remember where I saw it, but I saw a discussion on a guitar forum about the Buckeye Burl tops that Legator put on their guitars. This particular top is California Buckeye Burl. It's one of the more expensive burl tops you can get. It's a difficult wood to source. It's a difficult wood to process into a usable slab for a guitar because it downsizes by about 7-ish times when you dry it out. Snakes also tend to live within the tree trunks of the trees that are lumbered to make these tops. So it's kind of a risky business on top of being expensive and a difficult process to work with. However, that's not the really, really cool part. What I also read on this forum was that beneath the burl top of this guitar, a phosphorescent glow-in-the-dark layer of paint has been applied. So any dark bits on the top, such as here, 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 even these little dot bits there, they glow in the dark like a lumen lay side dot would. It's really bright in here today because it's such a sunny day, but I'll try and show you just quickly now. So if we look at these little dots here, how cool is that? And like I said, it even extends to all of the darker parts of this guitar. So look at this massive dark section up here. That's so cool. Can you imagine how awesome that is going to look under UV stage lights? I mean, this is a tiny little $5.99 Amazon UV torch, and this does the business. I mean, that is just pure artistry. That is just pure, unnecessary creative flourish, and I love it. Of course, no Legator review I feel would be complete without a discussion around the ergonomics of this guitar. Legator, I feel, currently have some of the best playability and feel of any mass-produced instrument out there at the moment. This is achieved through extremely thin bodies. This is a very, very thin body, further accentuated by a gigantic belly carve. Hopefully you can see that. The neck profiles are also some of the thinnest I have ever played. This is a very thin neck profile. However, on the 7 and the 8 string models, they are profiled even thinner. So the 8-string guitar I own is one of the most comfortable instruments I have to play, and I don't feel overwhelmed by it. I do have big hands, but certainly I feel like if I was to play an 8-string with a U shape or anything like that, it would be considerably more unwieldy. The quality of the paint finish, it's satin, so clearly it's not going to be the most durable. Any hard lacquered gloss or shiny finish is going to weather dinks and dents a whole lot better, but that's no fault of this guitar. It does feel fantastic quality, extremely smooth, extremely tactile under the hand. All but some of the most cheapest models of Legator's range are manufactured in Korea. I haven't played a Korean instrument in the past 10 years that hasn't been very, very good. And this guitar continues that standard of quality. So let's have a fiddle on this bad boy and demonstrate to you what sort of sounds you can get out of this. As I said, it's fitted with a pair of Fishman Fluence Moderns. I have had a tenuous relationship with these pickups. I have for the most part not enjoyed the way they sound on 6-string instruments. I tend to write all of my 6-string stuff using drop C sharp, so I'm not in standard. I'm a half tone down on 5 of the strings and a tone and a half down on the bottom string. I found the voicings of the Fishman Fluence Moderns on the bridge to be just way too bright and harsh sounding on a lot of guitars I've played. Now with that said, I love the sound of Fishman Fluence Moderns on extended range instruments such as 7-string, 8-string. I feel that the brightness and the incredible amount of compression on voice 1 actually works extremely well with those lower registers, and it makes the articulation of those notes and the clarity just exceptional, like really class leading. Now coming on to this guitar, I really like the way these pickups sound in this guitar, strangely. There seems to be a big variation from guitar to guitar with how these pickups sound. I don't know if it's to do with the technology behind them. Fishman Fluence Moderns are inside nothing like any other pickup you can buy. They are not wire wound magnets. They are layers of printed circuit boards. So they couldn't be more different. It's like, you know, it's like comparing a Tesla to an internal combustion engine. So maybe it's that, I don't know. But 6-string guitars I've tried, there is a wild variance in tone between them. This one, I really like the sound of it. I am going to keep the Fishman Fluence Moderns in this guitar and not replace them like I have done in my Schecter C1 SLS with the less hot, more classic version. Typically I prefer voice 2 on these pickups, but actually on this guitar I kind of like both voicings depending what mood I'm in. So let's see if we can't crush some skulls on this bad boy. So we are currently jamming on voice 1 on the bridge pickup. It's like a dog barking on voice 1. It's like, oh, oh, oh. Let's go to voice 2. So you can hear like the lesser compression on voice 2. You see that barking dog's gone. Yeah, this voice 2 is just really thick sounding, like really satisfying. There's like a fair bit of low end in there. Let's slap a shitload of reverb on a second and enjoy ourselves, huh? Great fun, super duper satisfying. Let's have a roundup on build quality with this thing, because Legator are quite a young company. They've only been around about 7 years, 7-8 years, something like that. In the early days, Legator made some errors with QC, and some less than adequate guitars made their way into the market, which generated a hell of a lot of backlash on forums and things like that. I mean, you know, rightly so. you know, kind of on a much smaller scale, but similar to what Solar Guitars is going through at the moment. This guitar is flawless, apart from one tiny issue. The fretwork is as good as any Korean instrument I've tried. No sharp edges. There's been no fret sprout in the nearly 7-8 weeks I've owned this guitar. No finishing issues. The routing is super clean. The routing cavity for the blade switch, I could be wrong, and I'm sure that in the comments you'll tell me if you think I am, but I tend to find that the cleanliness of the routing on a blade switch is kind of a good indicator for how well the rest of the guitar has been built. And this instrument, super clean, no rough edges at all. Same goes for the pickup cavities. The tuning stability on this instrument is as good as it gets for anything that isn't an ever-tuned bridge. Quite often I'll just pick this thing up to have a jam and I won't bother tuning it, and it will sound spot on, perfect, you know, and that type of tuning stability, especially considering the constantly shifting climate that we kind of can sometimes have in the UK, is really impressive. And budget and money aside, the better a guitar is built, the better it tends to stay in tune. And that's not to say that you should spend a boatload of money to get an instrument with good tuning stability, but generally, if everything else is done well, the tuning stability sort of takes care of itself. My one gripe with this instrument has to do with the nut. The nut is mounted beautifully flush, so it's not poking out when you run your hand along the edge of the fretboard. There is no horrendous glue residue behind the nut. It's cosmetically spot on. It's just extremely sharp on the corners. So, you know, if you're doing fast moving stuff, going down to the first fret, you might catch your finger a little bit. Of course, this can be solved in 2 minutes with a file. Just file the edges off to be a little bit rounder. I don't know, I felt like I needed to mention that in the interests of full disclosure and giving you an unbiased review. You could even argue that it's better that it comes that way, because then you can file it down to your own personal preference. I don't know. But that really is it. This thing feels like a bloody expensive instrument, and it's certainly at the top end of what I would consider paying for anything that's been mass produced, even in small batches like these are. But it looks $1 million. It doesn't cost $1 million. It sounds $1 million. If I did a rating system on this channel, this thing would get top marks. Let's call it 5 jimmies out of 5. And coming back to what we were talking about at the start of this video, this to me is a piece of art. When my dad first saw this guitar, without me having said anything, he said, "That's art. That is a piece of art." He said, you should hang that on your wall if you're not going to play it, because, you know, that is something that is a thing of beauty. And I totally agree with the old fella. Let me know what you think in the comments. When do guitars become art? I myself am biased more towards modern instruments. Not that I can't appreciate a vintage instrument, which many are out there, and they are things of beauty. I tend to like things with a more modern approach like this. Bang up-to-date appointments with pickups, hardware, material choices, that type of deal. But let me know what you think in the comments. They always generate some interesting conversations. That is the end of this roundup on the Legator N6X in Amethyst. Thank you so much for watching once again. If you enjoyed this video, if you got anything from it, think about chucking me a subscribe, because it encourages me and it helps me to make more videos like this. Take care of yourselves. I'll see you next time.